Welcome to the Treasury Elite Entrepreneur Series. Time and again, we bring in world-class speakers and business leaders across the world in the field of entrepreneurship, treasury, VC, private equity, hedge funds, and conduct various programs and conferences in different formats. Treasury Elite Entrepreneurship Series is one such format where we learn from industry thought leaders about their experiences of running their businesses and opportunities and challenges they encounter and broad global trends that we see for the future. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Abhishek Goenka, founder and CEO of IFA Global and Treasury Elite. Bring in one-stop treasury and foreign exchange solutions for companies in India over the last 17 years. And today we have Mr. Yashish Dahiya, Chairman and CEO, PB Fintech Ltd, commonly known as Policy Bazaar and Paisa Bazaar. Well, Yashish doesn't need any introduction. Of course, we are one of the finest IPOs lately and one of the very initial people in the overall financial inclusion in the country. Thanks, Yashish, for being part of the Treasury Elite Entrepreneurship Series. How are you doing today?
I'm very well. Thank you so much, Abhishek, for having me here. And I'm very, glad to be here. Thank you.
So, Yashish, am I pronouncing your name properly? It's Yashish or Yashish?
It's Yashish. You're doing it very, very well. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. I just thought I got it wrong. Yashish, take me through your life journey. I know that before starting this venture, you had other experiences in the past, and just take us through the life's ups and downs, 2 or 3 major ones which you remember, and some of the important milestones. I want the young entrepreneurs in today's world to see that everything is not very rosy and it's a very, very difficult path initially.
No, thank you, Abhishek. I'm a Fauji kid. All our family's been in the defense forces, and the first person out of the defense. And after completing my initial education in India, I worked for an industrial packaging company, ITW Signode, posted in various places, Rajkot, Madras, Hyderabad, and Bombay, Mumbai and Chennai now. And then after that, I went to France to do a 1-year course at INSEAD, which was quite transformative for me. I till then used to believe, that yes, we are mathematically very good, etc. But I had, and I went there pretty much because I thought that I was getting a low salary in India. And if I go and do an MBA abroad, I'll get a higher salary. That was the main reason. But what I learned there when I was there was that, look, the Italians make very good cars. So they can't make it unless they're brilliant, right? And the Germans make very good cars, and the French make all these luxury products. So they must be geniuses also. So I learned about different cultures, and I think it was a very enriching experience. Post which I was a consultant for 2 years at Bain. And then I joined eBookers, which was an online travel agency. It was a FTSE 250 company. I was a managing director there. It was acquired by a large conglomerate, American company, who on the 4th day of the acquisition fired me. They just called me to the office and said, you don't have a job from tomorrow. That job was very important to me because I was living in the UK. My children were going to private school, etc., etc. And so I was a bit stuck, and I did not know why they did it. I don't think even they knew, but they did it anyway. So I found a job with a company called Admiral, which was an insurance company, but they realized that marketing cost in insurance is very high, and hence, running an aggregator is a good business. So they had both an aggregator and an insurance company. And so I learned a lot about aggregation services from there. And, somewhat from there came the idea, which eventually led to Policy Bazaar. And the team also came together from there. We were 18 co-founders. More than half of us are still in the company. And yeah, I think we've enjoyed our journey.
So you had 18 co-founders?
Yes. I was the main one, but we had 18 co-founders. That is absolutely right.
Yeah. So I remember there was a story where, you guys were comparing insurance policies, and then you went and said that, okay, whatever the policy price that you get, you are going to get 30% or 40% of it. And then that was the starting of the story. Please tell us a little bit about it.
So when we started, we came with a very basic idea. See, Admiral is mostly a motor insurance company. So we came up with this thing that, look, if you compare car insurance policies at that time, the prices had just been, so to say, you could decide your own price as an insurance company. And that meant for certain cars, for certain profiles, companies could charge lesser or more. And so we came up with this platform which would compare all of them. And essentially, you could check on the platform which company was offering the lowest price for your particular policy and essentially save some money. That was the initial premise. But very quickly, within about 6 months, we realized that the real problem in India was not that. And car insurance was actually quite a small market because, auto manufacturers keep the first 3 to 5 years. And so the remaining part of it is actually quite small. And the real problem that India faced was actually health insurance and life insurance. And thus became a totally different approach, which was less on price comparison and much more on the need for health insurance and life insurance in the country.
Okay.
And trying to promote that side. And that is where the growth of Policy Bazaar really began.
Right. So, Yashish, it's been a pretty long journey for you. And, as entrepreneurs, we keep growing. Every time the need changes. What's your current need? What's keep you awake and what drives you every morning?
See, I think every company, has different issues at different stages. At one time, it is a stage of getting a foothold in the market. At one time, it is a stage of building. And you always have, as you look at the next 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, you can see some risks. And it is about navigating those and making your company stronger through those risks. Today we have an operational CEO in Sarbir Singh. So I no longer need to do weekly calls or worry about were the sales high today or the sales low today, or was our cost a little higher today, or are we going to be profitable next quarter? Those are not issues that I any longer spend my time on. But I think the things that keep me awake are two parts. One is what are the risks we can see, which we have to navigate. And the second is do enough members in my company understand and appreciate those risks. So the communication of that, both internally and externally. And I think, and also understanding the opportunities and making sure that the team, at least between me and the CEO, there's full alignment that those are our issues, those are our opportunities, those are the risks we carry. And that's basically what I end up spending my time on. And, as I think of businesses, businesses have to survive to be valuable. Right. Nobody has the right to survive forever. So I think it's one of the toughest tasks out there to keep yourself relevant every day.
Right. So, Yashish, in this journey, there has been both good and bad times. Markets are extremely volatile. Valuations have taken a toll. How do you communicate good news and bad news, both to our peers? And what's your communication style in case you have learned something from your mentors, or some things which you use on a daily basis?
So I'm usually very, very direct with people, investors, partners, everyone. Maybe a little too direct, or both good news and bad news. So I believe hiding good news is just as bad as hiding bad news. And both must be shared instantaneously. it's a little fashionable to share bad news more quickly. And so I also do that. But I also make sure that if there's good news that needs to be shared, that also must be shared, because in a way, hiding good news is also wrong, both from a public markets perspective and from our own employees' perspective. So I guess it's, over time, you become, or at least I have become quite an individual that does not really think of information as good or bad. It is just information, which just needs to be out there. And that leads to better relationships, both with our partners, our employees, and sometimes that leads to conflict, but it's good that conflict comes out early rather than gets, deferred or not discussed.
Right. So, Yashish, you have been a sportsman. You have participated in various triathlons, what I know. And right now also I see you wearing a sports t-shirt. So pretty passionate about it. Sportsmanship and entrepreneurship, followed by a very high level of energy. It's a kicker combination. How do you manage your energy, number one? And how has sports taught you? I mean, what has sports taught you in this field of entrepreneurship over the years?
See, one of the things, and the sports I do are also quite black and white, in the sense running, swimming, you win or lose every day. It's okay. So, what happens in for sportsmen is, yes, everybody wants to win, but you also have the ability to, as they say, lose with a grin, right? And that's very critical. But one thing sports people cannot tolerate is an unfair referee. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
That if the game is tampered, or if the referee is unfair, you get very, very upset, right? And I think that comes to me almost naturally. So whenever I see something is not fair, I really it agitates me, and I think that shows up in many ways. And that unfairness could be anything. It could be something like some employee getting a bonus they did not deserve, or not getting a bonus that they deserved. It could be, it could be us being fair in a particular partnership, but the partner not being fair back to us, or the other way around. It can be many things, but I think fairness becomes a very important aspect. And yes, you're right, the energy levels stay high. That is a byproduct of anybody being involved in sporting activities. Taking sports too seriously also has its challenges, because then it starts to take time commitments, etc.
Yeah.
And we have to balance multiple things. We have to balance work. We have to balance family. It is you can't do only one. I wish I could do only one thing, but that's not. So there's a lot of compromise also that comes. Plus, it teaches the value of time.
Yeah.
Because remember, you only have 14, 16 hours in a day, and you realize, how important your time is and somebody else's time is. So yeah.
In fact, Yashish very rightly pointed that, especially in your case, you were participating in triathlons, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
And preparing for a triathlon or an Ironman is takes a lot of your time and energy. Personally and professionally, it takes a toll. And while running a parallel business, so time and again, as entrepreneurs, we start getting matured. We start understanding the importance of time, what not to do and what to do. So on that perspective, how did you arrange your time? How did you spend your day? And how did you ensure that you could use your time most efficiently?
So a couple of things. First of all, I try to keep one day in a week without appointments. Because there's a lot of work you have to do, because otherwise, appointments, if anybody looks at the calendars, appointments fill up very, very rapidly.
Correct.
And so one day in a week, I make sure I don't have any appointments. It's very difficult to do, but I do that. I use the morning time mostly for my exercise, etc., and sometimes gaps in the middle also. So I could do something like, instead of lunch, go for a run. Those things happen in my life, right? Uh, I like to also carry family along. So in the sense, in most of, I like my children to do the same events as me, so that we can train together and spend time together, so that, family time is not compromised because of sport. So I also believe that, family and work must intermesh, because I think the days when you could do only work at one time and only family at one time, we don't have that comfort anymore. If work can reach me on a weekend with my family, then my family should also be able to interfere in my work. So I think it's a lot of intermeshing that does happen. And I believe a lot in that. So there was a time when I was, my wife was studying and I was a single parent. And so what I would do in the UK was take my lunch break, go and pick up my daughter. And she was small that time. She used to be at nursery. And I would bring her to the office and she would keep sleeping there or playing with some games, etc. And I would do that on a regular basis. But her academics was not affected and my work was not affected. So I believe a lot in intermeshing. But I think the one day a week where you don't set appointments really helps you get a lot of work done.
Yeah. I think the deep learning part, the deep thought part can go in for that. Otherwise, you keep running behind schedules and meetings. Yashish, today's environment is extremely volatile. How do you manage volatility in the current environment across the company, where all your ratios, all the calculations, your stress testing goes for a toss? Is there some tool that you use?
So there's a fundamental thinking that how much value are you adding to consumers and suppliers put together? There's a deep understanding of that. If you're not adding value, you don't deserve to make money also. But as long as you're adding more value than what you're earning, you're largely okay. Yes, in our industry, there's a lot of volatility. And at times things will change. But the insurance industry is not so volatile that things change very rapidly. This is a slow moving industry. And we've chosen it for that reason, because customer engagement is slow. Customer involvement is low. We have to educate the customer quite a bit.
Right.
And it takes time to build and it takes time to change. So, but I do appreciate what you're saying, that look, regulations change. I think those pieces, we've over time realized that the fundamentals of the business do not shift too much basis what I would call outside in artificial changes, if you would.
Right.
But yeah, that's.
Yeah. Especially a business like yours, which is pretty, people need it. It's not something which is like a.
People don't know they need it. But it's a very difficult job. And I must share this with you. This is the only product in the world where when you buy it, you hope you will never use it.
Correct.
Right? Because nobody wants a claim. Nobody wants to end up in hospital or be dead. Right? So you're just going to pay for something and hope you never use it. Your best case scenario is you never use it.
Right.
Now, very few products have that.
Right.
And I think that there is also a deep resistance to purchase, because if you did not fall sick for 5 days, you've just saved 5 days of premium. So why not delay it as much as possible? Right.
Correct.
So I think understanding of risk is very low in the country. So I guess lots of reasons why it's a different category.
I'm being in risk management business. I know that, when we talk to companies about foreign exchange risk, etc., a time like now, which is being in markets have been volatile,
Yeah.
5 years, 6 years, nothing happens. And then it just takes a month to take the entire course of action and to change the leverage completely. So I completely appreciate. So Yashish, in the current environment where there are 2 points of thought, and now since you're in the hem of things and you have seen the market growing and seen consumers very, very closely, the size of the entire fintech industry, there's some people who say that actually the people who make money and they can spend on fintech and they can buy products, they can consume products is small, whereas the market is very big. And sometimes the Western people don't understand it. I wanted to throw some facts on this. What is your study and what's your analysis for India in the next 5 years?
Yeah, the customer seems to be, at least as far as insurance is concerned, the customer that can be serviced today and who wishes to be serviced seems to be the person whose family earns at least 5 lakh rupees a year.
Yeah.
Which is not that much. It's about 40,000 rupees a month. But if somebody is not earning that much, they will either start to come under the, ESIS or under some other scheme or the other. For somebody of that sort, spending, maybe 5,000, 10,000 rupees on an insurance policy starts to become something they do not want to afford. And also at the distribution level, it becomes too expensive, quite honestly. Because, if you're selling a 5,000 rupee policy,
Cost of service.
you are eventually making 500 rupees. And that, I know 500 rupees sounds like a lot for processing a policy, but it's not processing. It's actually the sales effort, which becomes too much.
Yeah.
That's the reality, right? So, and the awareness is low. You need a lot of spend to wake up people to purchase, etc. Plus, you'll be very surprised by this data. And I don't even know whether I should say it. But below 5 lakhs, it's a very sad stat. But the life expectancy also starts falling very rapidly.
Correct.
And what that means is if you are covering that risk, you will remember insurance is priced on risk.
Yeah.
So it will actually start to become more expensive.
Correct.
Now, see, I have nothing against other people on what business they do, but I cannot do the business of let's say, not giving the customer value. Let us put it very simply as that. So I think if the claims ratio is not 70% or so, I don't feel like selling a product. Right? Now, there are products usually sold to the poor, and this is worldwide. This is not just an Indian phenomenon.
Yeah.
Whenever the poor have bought products, for all the talk of fintech and all, those products have less than 10% claims ratio.
Oh, okay.
Because the products that are sold are, because it's a very simple thing, right? Nobody can distribute a product which is, let's say you buy a product which is 1 rupee per month. The person who's distributing it has to make 90 paise. If he doesn't make 90 paise, why will he distribute it? And so eventually the benefit that the customer gets is not even 10 paise. That's the reality. It's not just an India thing. I have studied it all over the world. That's the reality of these products. That's the same as, value-added services, if you call it. But the person's supposed to make profit from value-added services. So it's a difficult one. If I was to, simply, I know there's a lot of talk about embedded insurance, etc. But hey, why is somebody doing embedded insurance? They're doing it to make money. Right? And if they have to make money, because the cost has come down so much, the commissions tend to be very high, or the payouts tend to be very high. And the customer does not really care because it's, it's very small price. They're just paying. That's fine. But I'm not in that business. I'm in the business of, serious health insurance, life insurance, right? That's a totally different area.
So in the market of 130 crores Indians, what's the kind of market size you look at the next 5 years?
So today, it's about 60 million families. That's about 6 crore families. That would be roughly uh, roughly 20% of India's population, 15 to 20% of India's population. Now, this will grow. If I look at the next, because about 350 million families, I would say, in India. If I look at the next 15 years, this will about triple. So this 60 million will become about almost 200 million families, which will be part of the middle class. And there's a very clear reason for that, right? Today, the average middle class person, the oldest member is 35 years old. On average, they have 1.3 kids, or on average about 10 years old. And in 15 years time, the 10-year-old will be 25 years old, and the 35-year-old will be 50 years old. And looking at all mortality tables, etc. So a doubling is almost likely to happen, right? And then some people will rise from poverty into the middle class also. So I think we are in a situation where, you know, this is almost like what happened in the US 70, 80 years ago. This is the whole growth of the middle class, the emergence of the, let me not call it growth, let me call it emergence of the middle class. So the middle class goes from 15, 20% of the population to more than half the population. I think that's what you're going to see happening over the next 15 years. And that's exactly why we are, you know, so excited about this space, because the middle class is the one who needs these services. But it's very important to realize whom you are servicing. There's a lot of pressure on saying, okay, I will service the bottom of the pyramid. But you have to realize, are you just saying it? Or do you really mean it? And how exactly are you going to serve the bottom of the pyramid? Does the bottom of the pyramid even want to be served?
And also, do you want to spend that much time and money to serve till the time?
Even if you are willing to, is it something the other person wants? And what if something goes wrong? See, also what we have to realize is the bottom of the pyramid is a very politically sensitive area. You do farm loans and one farmer commits suicide. Next day, your company could be shut down.
100%.
I'm not saying it is a small thing. But all I'm saying is if a middle class person commits suicide because he could not pay back a loan, that would be one thing that may or may not become a political issue. But this will, you know, so I'm just trying to sensitize here. That's all. You know, just be practical about it.
Correct. Yashish, one last thing. And so in this current environment where, of course, media try to, you know, bloat up things when it's good, and they try to, you know, cover things in a very, very negative manner when things are not doing great. In the current environment, like an entrepreneur, what's the kind of message that you will give to companies who are at Series A, Series B, or just pre-seed? How should
I think entrepreneurs, because I have faced a lot of pressure in the last 14 years, where I have again and again told media not to focus on value, but to focus on what is actually being built.
Correct.
We unfortunately talk in unicorns and decacons and whatever else, but we don't focus on, or let me say the public is not interested in really knowing what value you add. Right. Which is a pity for me, at least, because I would wish it was the other way around. But that's the reality. I met a journalist yesterday also, and I was telling them that's the reality. We have to face it. But I think as founders, see, you are putting your life on the line. Everybody else is investing 1% of what they have or 2% of what they have, and doesn't have any skin in the game besides you. I would say, please know what you're doing. Don't do it for Series A, Series B, Series C, Series D, because kahin na kahin jaake atak jaoge. If you think that way, you may think you're surviving and doing a great job. Don't believe in bullshit. And last of all, don't believe in your own bullshit. Right? So be convinced yourself. If you had all the money, would you invest behind yourself? You know, if not, at least know for yourself whether you're having fun or really building a business. Right? And this whole thing of in 3 months, I will do this pivot and I will do that pivot, and then I will be valued at X and then I'll be valued at Y. Trust me, eventually it will lead to a lot of pain. I hope you're lucky and you can get your exit, etc. But otherwise, it'll lead to a lot of pain. If you want to build a solid company, which you and your family will be proud of what you did, it's going to take 10, 15 years at least, minimum.
That's so relevant, Yashish. And when I talk to some VCs and I ask them the ratios, and I ask them the ratios that number of companies getting formed versus the number of companies getting funded versus number of companies where promoter at least make $4-5 million during their exits. And the ratios are not very good. So it's very important.
What are the ratios for my knowledge?
Some 0.001% or something like that. Companies being made to companies where promoters are actually even able to dilute 1%, 2% to get $4-5 million. It's very, very less. I mean, what do you think? What are the ratios?
I don't know. I would agree with you. And I think, see, even I have diluted a bit. And I have made a certain amount of money with which I'm very comfortable, and I don't want to make any more. Quite honestly, the rest is quite irrelevant to me from a money-making perspective.
Yeah.
So I find myself in a very lucky position that way.
Yeah.
But that cannot be, in some ways, the reason why you set it up. Because if that is the reason, at some point you will give up.
Yeah, 100%.
Because the pains that you will face at some level will be so high that you won't be able to do it just for the money, is what I'm trying to say. You will be able to do it if you were really, really passionate about it. I don't know how better to say that, but that's just the reality.
It takes a lifetime to build a business. People
Exactly.
think that they
Yeah.
can build it over at 35, 40, enjoy the rest of their life, retire and all that. I think it's a lifetime. I've been into business for 17 years and I exactly know what you're talking about. And it's difficult. And you need to live every day, manage your team expectations, manage your client expectations, and still grow, irrespective of what the market is. So that's amazing, Yashish. Last question to you. One fun fact about you, what people don't know, which brings smile to people's faces.
So I have in my office 2 drawings from my son and my daughter. In fact, if you see, that is right there.
Yeah.
And there's another one on the other corner.
Yeah.
And these have been there from the start of the company. My daughter that time was 3 years old and my son was 5 years old. They have always been in my room. And we recently had a renovation. And so they did up the whole room and these 2 had gone missing. And so they thought they had done a very good job. So I came into this room and I said, where are those paintings? So they somehow found them somewhere and got them back. But the fun fact I was going to share was my daughter had made a picture of me in that when she was 3 years old. And she did a lot of words: sporty, kind, intelligent, etc., etc. But one word which everybody notices, which was written there, is deceiving.
Okay.
Now, I don't know whether it was because I had told her that I'll get her a toffee and not got it, but I don't know what it was.
Correct.
She asked me to share a fun fact. That is one of the words. There's lots of words, independent, on time, lots of stamina, likes air conditions, likes to feel important. But there's one word which for a 3-year-old is quite telling to write about their own father: deceiving. So I said, okay, that's also part of me.
Lovely, Ashish. It was really nice talking to you.
Thank you.
I think you made a lot of interesting points. And in the last, what you mentioned is very, very relevant, especially for people who are losing hope in their current environment. And also, it's very important that people read beyond headlines and look detail into entrepreneurs' lives, that it takes a lifetime to build a company. Don't lose hope, but things are not going to be easy. And do it not for the money, but because you really want to create a change. And Yashish, thank you once again. Thanks for
Thank
taking
you.
out time.
Thank you for having me here. Really appreciated
Thanks.
this conversation.